Hey guys, Nathan here with a short tutorial on how to put together your own wiki page for ostensibly the term research project for Bio 215 in Dr. Cap's class. The first thing you're going to have to do is get on web access. If you can't get on web access, you have far bigger problems than what my video will cover. And if you can't get on web access, please call up the web access support number and talk to them. It's really important that you know how to get on web access. Assuming that you can get on web access, navigate to the Bio 215 webpage, scroll down to the Term Research Project Wiki. You see this link right here. Click that bad boy. You might want to bookmark this page. It's kind of useful. It will definitely be the kind of starting point of all of your term research project work. So definitely be aware of that. And as you click on that link, you'll see this page here. And this page, unfortunately, has this giant introduction, this wall of text that is really useful, except you don't want to see it every single time you open up a new page. Hopefully Dr. Cap moves this somewhere else. Or deletes this completely off the page and kind of lets us know in another way that we need to have all of this stuff. So please ignore this. It's not part of the wiki page, right? The wiki page really starts when you start scrolling down. And when you scroll down all the way and you start seeing this toolbar here, this toolbar with view and edit and files and history, okay? This is really important. This is actually where the wiki page should start, okay? Under this toolbar, you see this kind of red text. We'll call this the first page because it's called the first page. And it's what we call the title, okay? The title is what we call the page. It's how you navigate to a page, and it's also how you reference to the page. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I just want you to remember that this is the title. You can also check that this is the title by looking at the very top of your browser and the title of the tab you're on, or the title of the browser. And in our case, it should say first page, and lo and behold, it does. Within this kind of box here under the title, I don't know if you can see the box, it's kind of faint. This is what we call the body text, or just the body, okay? And that's really where all the important stuff goes. It's where you type your information, it's where you type your reports, it's where you post your pictures, and all that jazz. So that's where we're going to spend a lot of our time today, kind of working in the body and editing the body. So, how do you even edit a page, right? We now kind of are familiarized with what the page is. How do we actually edit it? Well, you look at this handy dandy toolbar, and yes, we're on the View tab, which means that we're viewing things. Let's look at the Edit tab, because hopefully that lets us edit things. We have this giant kind of introduction again. Please ignore that. Scroll all the way down. Check out that toolbar. Yes, now I'm on top of my page. Check out the title of our page. Are we still editing our first page? And yes, we're editing the first page. And under that title, that body text has been replaced with this box. Now this box is very white. It also has a whole bunch of toolbars and some text inside. Guess what this box does? This box, if you guessed it, is an editor. And we can use it to edit our body text. As you can see, a few groups have already put their names down and already put a link in. We're going to learn how to do that right now. So let's say I were to create kind of a fictional group. Let's call it Bob and Joe, or just Bob and Joe. Okay, that would be our names. And all you have to do to kind of put that information in is just type. It's just as simple. I also apologize for my keyboard. My keyboard goes clack, clack, clack. I know that there's nothing I can do to... I'm not typing hard. It's just my keyboard makes those sounds. I apologize. All you have to do to edit your body text is just to type. Now, if you look, if you look at other people's, this is actually also a really good way to learn. You can just learn by looking at other people's pages or looking at, say, the first page and copying what other people are doing, because other people, when they use these double brackets, these double square brackets, you can make an inference, right? If we click on view again, and we bring up that first page, we have a name, and then we have kind of a link, right? My mouse cursor changed, the color changes, and it's called the aquarium. Or if you look at Nathan Ties and Gurkaret Sings, page, the super duper micro aquarium, you can see that there's a link there. So hazard a guess. If you have these double brackets, these double square brackets, what do you think that makes this text? You probably guessed right. That makes a link. We're going to call this a page. Okay? And that's just as simple as that. We can add Bob and Joe, and we can add their page, a page. So I would recommend that you guys preview your work before you hit save. And the reason, there's no good reason for that, but it really is kind of useful just in case you make a big boo-boo, make a big error, accidentally delete someone's page or something like that. You can make sure that you don't do that. Just, click preview, give it a quick look over, make sure that everything looks okay, and then just go ahead and hit save. Now, scroll all the way down, look for that toolbar. Under that toolbar, we have our title, the first page, and look, we got our new entry, Bob and Joe, a page. I'm actually we're not going to look at this because, I just wanted to mention, if your link is red, don't be worried. A red link just means that page hasn't been visited and it hasn't been created yet. So the moment you click on that page and edit it, hey yo, okay, and hit save, right? Then that first page, that color of that link will turn blue. So if it turns red, really don't panic. Just click on it and begin editing it. Once you make a change and once you make a save, it'll turn to a normal color. Okay, we're actually going to edit ours. We're going to edit the super duper micro aquarium because we're kind of lazy and we haven't actually added anything yet. So this is a good time to kind of get things done. So I'm going to click on the edit button and we're going to enter the edit toolbar. And notice I'm on a different page now. I'm on the super duper micro aquarium page. Again, if you look at the very top, right, that's the name of our tab, that's the name of our page, the super duper micro aquarium. And I'm editing that right now. Okay. Now, if you remember what Dr. Cap talked about in class, either in lab or in lecture, he's pointed out that you need a few things, that he's looking for a few things. He's looking for basically this Wikipedia page or this wiki page to replace a full-on lab report. So we kind of need to provide the same information that we would normally find in a lab report. Okay? So one of the big things that we probably need to provide is what we'll call an introduction and background. Okay? And what an introduction and background is basically an introduction and a background to what you're doing. If you're doing the microaquaria, right, an introduction and background would be kind of talking about why you're doing this, kind of what the significance of a microaquaria is, kind of what do you expect to see, kind of maybe some previous research that other people have done on microaquaria, things like that, just to get your reader kind of filled in. You also definitely want to include methods and materials, okay, section. In a methods and materials section, basically talks about your methods, how you did something, what did you do, are you leaving your microaquaria in Siberia to freeze? Are you leaving it in the Sahara Desert to warm up? Or are you just keeping it inside of a nice kind of cozy air-conditioned room with occasional sunlight? And of course, materials talks about what materials you're using. In our case, for the microaquaria, you're using a microaquaria. Gee whiz. You should also find out where that microaquaria came from, maybe the specs of the microaquaria, how big it is. You maybe want to talk about the water, where you got your water from, where you got your pond stuff from, where you got the dirt maybe from, things like that, okay? Those are all really important things to have in your methods and materials. If you're doing the transect, your materials, well, you think, well, my materials is myself walking around. It's that, but it's also a little bit more, right? If you use a camera, you want to talk about what camera you used. If you want to talk about a method, right, you talk about when you go, where you go, how you walk, how you're looking for things. Those are just kind of some ideas to get you started. Now, after the methods and materials, right, so the introduction and background is kind of the why you're doing something and kind of the background. The methods and material is how you're doing something. And the next step is kind of the what did you gather? And we call this data. We call this data and results, perhaps. Okay? And in the data and results section, you really want to talk about, you want to basically report verbatim whatever you find. This is what I found today. This is what I found yesterday. This is what I found the day before. These are the pictures that I see. These are the pictures that I took. These are the animals that I found. These are the little bacteria dudes that are floating around. You don't want to introduce really your own opinion into data and results. You just want to talk about very kind of objectively, what did you get? You want to report exactly what you got, and you want to report as much data as you can, because the more data you have, the better your next section, the kind of the what happened, the analysis and conclusion can be, okay? So once you get your data, once you get a huge amount of data, maybe a few weeks worth or maybe a whole month or 2 months worth of data, right? You can sit down in front of your data in a big spreadsheet or in a big kind of printout and read it all and figure out, what did I learn? What important kind of conclusions can I draw? Maybe I can conclude that the water around my area has a whole bunch of really nasty stuff growing there. Or maybe you can conclude, well, it turns out that DI water is extremely free of microbes. Who knew? If you, by the way, set up your microaquaria and only put DI water in there and nothing else, you probably are doing it wrong. So those are the 4 major kind of points that you want to look at. Another one that I would recommend is kind of a references or citations page. Now this isn't, I don't know if this is extremely important, but it's a holdover from research, because everything that you do, right, all the work that you're doing is actually based off of other people's prior work. Even though you're walking around Skyline campus looking at bugs, looking at nasty, spiders, and looking under rocks and behind bushes and things like that, right? You must think, well, no one's ever done that before. Well, tons of people have done that before. Tons and tons and tons of people have gone out and walked in nature and checked out transects of, national parks and whatever. And they've done their own write-up. In fact, they've talked about their own methods, their own way that they do things. If you're making a microaquaria, there have been tons and tons of people who have done that before you. And you'd be really silly to not look those papers up and read them just briefly to get a feel of what they did and how they did it, so that you can apply it and make your paper even better, right? Go one step further. And of course, then, any papers that you read, any papers that might have helped you or factored into your understanding, identification of particular bacterium or paramecium or whatnot, all of those things, those go into the references and citations portion. And that's super important to keep, because even though you're not writing a full paper right now, if you were to write a full paper from this, right, you'd have to cite those guys. You'd have to give them credit, because you're plagiarizing if you're not, or you're plagiarizing kind of that information. So we've got kind of a brief rundown of what we need, okay? Now, it's been a while since I talked about making a link, but let's see if we still remember how to do it. To make a link, all I do is make a square bracket. And by the way, the square bracket button is located to the right. It's the button right next to your P button. It's the one right to the right of the P button. Double square bracket. And we're going to name ours Super Introduction. Okay. Oops. And we're going to name our methods and materials Super Methods. Actually, we're going to name our Super M&Ms, because I really like eating M&Ms, especially peanut ones. We're also going to name ours Data and Results, Duper Data and Results, because it's kind of boring to have super in front of everything. And of course, we're going to have a super duper conclusion. Okay, and of course, for references, they're just going to be alright references. Okay, so if you've noticed, I might have typed something wrong. I might have a typo here, but you know, let's pretend I don't see it. And I hit preview. Remember to always hit preview. Okay, so you'll kind of look at stuff and okay, remember red means it's a page that hasn't been corrected, that hasn't been created yet, so don't worry if it's red, right? So you see red, that's fine, that's fine. You see red, that's fine, and then all of a sudden you get this like, oh, what is this? Why is my all right references not red? Something's wrong. So you'd scroll down a little bit, and you'd kind of look at all right references, which is here, and you think, well, this looks fine. Nothing's wrong with that. Remember, when you're kind of editing a document in general, you always want to look around that prom area, just kind of 1 or 2 lines above and 1 or 2 lines below, just to check to make sure everything's all right. And it turns out that on this line, the analysis and conclusions line, I actually forgot to put another square bracket there. Now, once I put that square bracket again, hit preview, scroll all the way down, look, everything is beautiful. So we're going to go ahead and create this page. We're going to save this page. In fact, excuse me. In fact, once we go back down to our page, we hit view, we see all this stuff. We see our super introduction, super M&Ms, duper data results, super duper conclusion, and all right references. Yeah, unfortunately, you know, our references just aren't going to be as good as the rest of our paper. The process for creating and managing those pages is just the same as creating this page, so I'm not going to really go into the details there. I will leave you with a couple of interesting ideas. Not only can you just create a bare bones page like what we have right now, I would call this page a little bit boring. Okay, what I would do is I would spice it up. You know, I would personalize it, make it awesome, make it unique to you. And in fact, again, I'm going to repeat this over and over again. If you see something really cool that someone else has done in creating a page or maybe in linking their stuff, you can always hit edit, okay, on their page and see the code or see kind of the edit box and copy and paste into your page, and it should work exactly the same way. Just remember to change the name of the titles and the pages and stuff like that, right? And of course, if you use their stuff, you should probably put a little reference to them and say reference Bob and Joe's page because I really liked the way that they laid out their page, or I used their page as a template. I'll show you a couple of things that you can use to kind of personalize your page and make your page look a little bit nicer. If you look in the first toolbar, you'll see font family, font size, and paragraph. If you click on font family, you'll get kind of a small list of fonts that you can use. It's really up to you. There's no Helvetica, so you guys can't be all hipster, pretty Apple looking, but you know, you can get pretty close with some of these other fonts. The font size, of course, is the size of your font. And paragraph, these are actually, what this box is basically a set of pre-formatted kind of font types. They're kind of templates for your fonts. So you don't have to like manually change your font every single time you want to make a heading. to make all of your headings consistent. You don't have to like manually do all this every single time you want to make a heading. So for instance, if I wanted to give my page a proper title or a proper kind of welcome, I'd click on heading 1. You see how that changed to heading 1, and I'll call this welcome to the super duper micro aquarium page. Okay? And of course, just like with, Word or Pages or whatever kind of editing application you use, there's also a whole range of editing tools. Like I can make this centered, right? And things like that. And you hit preview, and you'll see welcome to the super duper micro aquarium page. And notice how it's red, okay? Because that's apparently the way that headings are formatted. If I didn't want that to be red, I can actually click and format it myself. I just made my font bold. I made it 36 point. I'm going to underline it. No, actually, that looks tacky. I'm going to kind of give it a cool color. Oh, green for biology. Okay. Right? And that's now a kind of a green welcome page. And all I have to do is hit preview, and those changes will be instantly changed. You see how quickly that happened? Now, that looks a little bit too big for me. Maybe I'll just put it down to 24 points so it all fits on one line. And so on and so forth, right? A couple of things, I would say that you could maybe get rid of kind of the introduction and background and just make this all a list, right? Instead of having to write introduction and background, you can make a cool page title that's called super introduction and super M&Ms. So something that people can easily recognize and understand. There's a couple of other things as well that I'm not really going to delve into. You can insert pictures and smileys and emoticons using this toolbar. If you want to add equations, you can definitely do this as well, I believe. Yeah, there's equations. And just to see all this help text, all you have to do is just hover over each of these buttons, and they'll let you know what you can and cannot do. For the pro hackers out there, there's also an HTML editor. If you just click on that, it'll bring up some code, and you can actually manually write your own page and figure out what's going on. Okay? And this lets you kind of do really cool things like embed Google Maps and do other, really kind of cool and neat things. And I'll be putting some of these up. Hopefully, I'll mess around with my page and kind of let it be a template for you guys to see and use, so you guys can kind of build off of that. Other than that, let's save this page. Other than that, there's really not much else to say. There's a lot of things that there's definitely a lot more to managing and creating a wiki than I'm talking about, but it really boils down to you playing around with how the wiki is and kind of what the limits and limitations of an editor are, right? You're not writing a Word document anymore. You're writing a web page. And that really introduces a lot of really, really cool ideas and really cool things. And just a simple Google or just playing around with that editor can open up kind of big doors. Sorry, there's actually two more things I wanted to talk about. I just realized. The map function, if you click on just map in this super handy toolbar, you'll see, okay, this is a little bit overwhelming, but you'll see every single page ever created all in one page. Okay, so you can see our super duper micro aquarium, and you're not going to see super M&Ms because that page is still new. I haven't actually added any content to it. Once I add content to that will show up, right? And you can see all this stuff that other people have created. This is a really useful resource, okay, for two reasons. First of all, if you're working on a page and you completely forgot, I forgot what the name of my results page was and I wanted to link to it, or I completely forgot this other group had this really cool page and I just don't remember their title, you can actually hit map and you can scroll down and find and maybe click on one of these pages, right? If I click on Super Duper Micro Aquarium, I'm back at my Super Duper Micro Aquarium page. So you can find kind of cool, neat stuff. The second thing is that you can also use it as kind of a reference, right? If you forgot how to get to the first page, or if you just wanted to navigate to the first page from anywhere, you could just click map and you can click first page. The other thing that I want to talk about is the history of a page. Now, once I click on history, it will bring me up to this page and it'll show me not only the different versions, but also when people edited them. As you can see, I created this page on the 25th of February at 4:14. Okay, and there are multiple versions of this, so I can actually compare two versions, right? So if I hit compare selected, the one on the right is the new one and the one on the left is the old one. And if you can see, I mean, that's basically representative, right? And this is just kind of as a warning and also kind of a reassurance. If you make a big mistake and delete the whole page on accident, okay, you can most likely get it back just by comparing the differences and hitting restore. Okay. On the same note, as a form of reassurance, don't be afraid to try and experiment with cool different new things with your page. Always know that if you mess up too big, you can always go back. You can always check different versions. Right? This is version 2. There's nothing there. Let's check what version 1 is. I think version 1 might have stuff. Yeah. This was actually the first incarnation of this tutorial. I just forgot to upload it the first time and I deleted it from my computer. So this was actually the initial welcome text to the first page. This also reminds me. On your page somewhere, you probably want to insert a link either back to the first page, aka the table of contents page, or back to your kind of home page, your Super Duper Micro Aquarium page. That's just to make it life a little bit easier for the people that are navigating around. All right. So if you have any questions, definitely let me know. I'm gonna create a questions page on the main table of contents that you can put your questions there. And myself or anyone else with an answer that they'll know, maybe Dr. Cat, maybe other people that are more technically minded, we'll definitely take a look there and try to figure it out. Think of it as a small forum. Also, really don't be afraid to experiment. I can't really stress this enough. You have to play with this. You really have to go in and create and write things and make things for it to really work and be effective. And that's the only way you're really going to learn about kind of how to manage and play with a wiki page. And of course, you can always use Google, because Google is really good at providing you a link to tutorials to things that you don't know about. So just kind of remember all of that. And I wish you guys the best of luck in creating and managing your term research project. Have fun and see you in class.